Elden Ring is just about a month away from celebrating its 3rd anniversary, having been released in February 2022. Even back then, a major problem was already apparent. Actually, there were several, and one of the most notable was how incredibly unbalanced the game was, along with how some players tended to exploit these balance issues and malfunctioning mechanics. Currently, while most of the more serious problems have been addressed and the balance, though not perfect, is no longer as ridiculously broken as it was 3 years ago, some issues still remain. However, are these problems entirely from software's fault?
No.
Well, they're partly to blame, so let's dive into the video, and I'll explain. The existence of these dates back to Dark Souls 3 with the well-known weapon arts, and since then, there have always been players who just spammed them. However, this problem became much more apparent and noticeable with Elden Ring, especially in recent months. Why do I say this? You can't deny that there are tons of players in Elden Ring who rely solely on their left trigger or the button above it. The reasons? Honestly, I don't know. I had written 2 previous scripts trying to relate it in some way to recent issues with Gen Alpha, the rise of TikTok, and so on, but when putting it down on paper, I couldn't find a solid basis to support this idea. So, let's leave it as a mystery. But does it have a solution? Yes, there are solutions. In fact, as Liliana mentioned in her video, the solution to Elden Ring PvP spam issue was already here since Demon's Souls. But in case you haven't seen it, I'll go over the possible solutions. I've never played Demon's Souls, so I can't say if this has been around since then, but I do know that weapon durability has existed since Dark Souls 1. This mechanic forced players to use their weapons wisely to avoid excessive wear. Once a weapon was worn down, you had to repair it at a blacksmith or at your trusty bonfire with the repair smith box. In Dark Souls 3, they significantly toned down this mechanic, making it much harder for weapons to break. On top of that, weapons were automatically repaired every time you rested at a bonfire. However, there were still weapons like the Moonlight Greatsword, which lost durability quickly when using its weapon art. This mechanic encouraged smart weapon usage to avoid turning your weapon into a useless paperweight. But in Elden Ring, durability was completely removed, giving players the freedom to spam attacks without fear of their weapon becoming unusable. As a result, many never learned the basic mechanics they would have in previous games. In Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, instead of having the well-known focus points bar, spells and incantations had a limited number of uses. Yes, this section will be short because there's not much else to argue. If we want smarter spell usage, the perfect solution is to return to the system from Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. What do I mean by dependent players? Please don't misunderstand me. I'm referring to players who play alongside friends but not at the same level. Rather, their friends are massively overleveled. This leads to the lower level player never properly learning the game, because why should I? My friends will do it for me. No. This is exactly why so many players panic roll, keep their vigor below 50, and spam attacks like crazy. Solution: From Software needs to fix its summon scaling system. I suppose this video will end up being a bit short since I've already covered everything I wanted to talk about. I know some people might say I'm just complaining, and yes I am. I'm complaining because I love this game and I believe people could enjoy it much more if they developed good habits and practices while playing. Maybe then, they wouldn't just whine about invaders are bad and shouldn't exist and other nonsense. Anyway, I'd also like to share some experiences I've had with these kinds of players. The ones I had the displeasure of encountering. Enjoy my stories. In the case of these guys, what really annoyed me was that when I invaded them, they did nothing but spam spells like headless chickens. It was seriously frustrating. Invaded them once again, and as the guy in the conversation mentioned, he left me alone for a bit to duel his friend. who was dealing an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage. When I asked for a screenshot of his friend's stats, he was level 500, a level 500 against a level 139. And of course, the host was just hiding behind his little buddy. The funny thing about these two clowns is that the one who was messaging me in chat tried to upload a video exposing me, only to set it to private a few minutes later. How pathetic. And a video they had sent me apparently no longer loads in my PlayStation app. The last case was this rather funny guy who came to drop a little hate over an invasion I did in Seamless Cop. I won't say more. You be the judge. Finishing with all this stuff, I want to thank you so much to everyone who voted in the poll. I know I didn't end up using it in the video, and that's because I made a mistake when setting it up. I forgot to specify that it was about PvP. But still, I really appreciate your participation and for sharing your opinion. Remember, if you'd like to support me, you can leave a donation on Ko-Fi or Patreon. With nothing more to add, I'll see you in the next class. See ya.